Hey, my creative friends. My name is Shannon from shannonstudio.com. And I am here to talk about a creative life, give some creative life tips to help us to have a mindset that wants to be creative, that we want to be creative, and make time and space for it. And I am on day 345 out of 365, we'll do this year. So it's a goal that I've had this year, and I'm on 345. And I'm very thrilled that I have actually accomplished this goal. I didn't really tell anybody in the beginning that I was doing this. I just did it because I was afraid I couldn't do it. And so it's kind of hedging my bets. Don't tell anybody because then nobody will know if I don't or if I quit. And sometimes you have to quit things, but yeah, I haven't quit. And we're almost to the end, and I'm excited. So tonight, first off, last night I talked about, I just mentioned perfection. And so that's what the boyfriend was laughing about upstairs. And he still thinks I'm a perfectionist. And I just told him, you know what? You should see what really goes on in my head. If I really executed what goes on in my head, you would realize I'm not a perfectionist, that I actually just let it go. So, yeah, that's the whole perfectionist thing. So, also, Allison said, I don't think it was yesterday, day before yesterday. And when we were talking about a few things, she said in her comments, she said, I think that's the difference between you and others. You don't know something can't be done, so you do it. The rest of us look at all the ways it can't be done. Hey, Tricia. And that made me think about what Allison said and kind of spurred tonight's conversation about the tip tonight. And that is being visionary. And again, I watched, there's like several episodes of the Imagineering story of Walt Disney and Walt Disney World and Disneyland and, you know, all things Disney in building it up. So I watched a little bit of that today. And it was interesting. He had some very determined ways of doing things, the approaches that he had. And one man was telling how Coulter was telling how he was having a conversation on his first day at Disney, working for Disney, and John Hens, one of the higher leadership guys, came to him and asked him if he knew what Walt Disney's 4 levels of detail were. And I'm like, 4 levels of detail, that's interesting. So he goes on to say the first level of detail is when you are coming, you know, you're out a ways from Disneyland, but you can look over the trees and you can see the church steeple. And I recall this. I was born and raised in California, Southern California, and I remember passing by Disneyland so many times in my childhood and seeing the Matterhorn, you know, and it's just this, seeing it from a distance. And so to me, I'm rephrasing, and to me it's this idea of the details of anticipation, where you put something out there where people kind of want to see it and, you know, start to create this desire or to create this excitement. So then the second thing he said was, when you walked into the town of Disneyland, you walked into Main Street, you saw the trees, the parkway, the benches, and, you know, when you walk down that main aisle, it's the main road, when you walk into Disneyland, it's just like it creates this big picture of what's that you've anticipated, but now it's creating the picture of all the details. So that to me was the details of the big picture. And then then they said when you get on the sidewalk close to a building, it's like then you get the whole building, you get the materials, the scale, the texture, the color, the architecture. So you get all these things when you step up to one particular building. And to me, that was like the details of the introduction of that. And then the other one, the last one, was the front door, where you went to the front door and you saw the knocker, but then you go up and you knock at the door and you can feel the weight of the knocker. You can feel its texture, it's the temperature of it. He said if it's deformed or had paint chips, and then all of a sudden you're transported. And so that's the detail of being transported. So he had these things, and I thought, I really never thought of it that way, to create. Well, I have, like, on such a small level, but didn't realize it, to create this experience and the details that go into the experience. I do remember one time when we were working on my niece's wedding, and I remember talking about the anticipation and, anyways. So I just thought that was great, and I think that's all of part of his vision of seeing things before other people saw them, and then telling people how he wanted that vision to play out. Then in the book, what's the book? The book is Cracking Creativity by Michael Michalko. I'm never going to get names right. Even when people pronounce them for me, it's like it just goes in and out. Cracking Creativity. He has a little bit of talking about Walt Disney. And he says, we need ways to open and expand our minds. Hence, Creative Heartbeats Club. Okay, so we need ways to, he doesn't say Creative Heartbeats Club, but I'm adding that. We need ways to open and expand our minds. Walt Disney had one approach of his creative thinking technique used by Walt Disney that allowed his vivid imagination to explore extraordinary ideas and concepts. So this is a practice that Walt Disney did. So he would play the dreamer and dream up fantasies and wishful visions. He would let his imagination soar without worrying about how to implement his conceptions. His fantasy analogies permitted him to connect words, concepts, and ideas with apparently irrelevant objects and events. The result was a rich treasure of associations and an imagination avalanche with whole mountains of ideas crashing down. His way with words of that is great. This imagination avalanche with all the whole mountain of ideas crashing down. Apparently Walt Disney had tons and tons and tons of ideas. And he let himself dream. And then after he would do that, he would play the dreamer, then he would play the engineer, and then he would play the, the critic. Then he would play the critic. So that's the process he went through. But the visionary part is hard. And that's kind of what I feel like with the Creative Heartbeats. I really feel like okay, here's a quote from Art and Fear. Vision races ahead of execution. And that is, obviously it's true. You got to see it before you can do it. But I think so many people can't even grasp a vision of it. So there's no point in an execution. They don't see a need to execute because they can never see the vision. And with Creative Heartbeats, hey boyfriend, with Creative Heartbeats, I have the vision that you can be creative and that you can have a creative life. And I've kind of done, I'm kind of a creative pathfinder for you, in that I will show you the path to execution. So the quote from Art and Fear, vision races ahead of execution. You may not have the vision you can be creative, but I do. I know that it can happen, and that you just need a little hand holding. You just need a little path finding. You just need for somebody to help you with that execution. And so, being visionary, knowing, for me, like Allison said, she said, you don't know something can't be done, so you do it. I really don't see obstacles, many obstacles to a lot of things. Yeah, I might not figure it out. It might take a long time. But there's usually a way. And when I was thinking about this, and I thought about women, and I thought about, how a lot of times we're home and we tend to be isolated, even without the coronavirus isolation. Then, we tend to kind of withdraw a little bit, and we lose track to build ourselves. Boyfriend says, is there any hope for me? Yes, there is. And actually, you are creative in a totally different way. But yeah, you are creative, but you'll never get close to glitter. You'll never embrace the glitter. Okay. So that's, so when I thought about women, and I thought I can see a way it can work for women to do this, and that it can be done in smaller pieces, 1-page prompts, and some different things that can be doable in the lifestyle you have, and that you can have this vision of yourself come to life. So I will help you with the execution. So in this book, Cracking Creativity, he gives a prompt for us is to be a dreamer. He said, pretend you have this, that you can grant any wish that you desire. What wishes would you create to solve your problems? So what wishes, and make them as improbable as you can. So I thought that was interesting. So I'm, that thought exercise to try to expand our minds, to open up the possibilities, to open up visions for ourselves. And, I would kind of push you in the direction of, what kind of things creatively do you feel like you could do? And, how do you want to add creativity to your life? How does your creative life look like? So that's kind of the prompt today, to see, to kind of push you in that direction, to see, if I had a creative life, what would it look like? And to also, I have a vision that you can be creative. And if you don't have one for yourself, rely on the fact that I have one for you. And most people have it. Like I mentioned before, anytime I tell somebody I paint, they will always say, oh, you should paint. And then they describe this scene or this idea they have. And then I will say sometimes to them, well, why don't you creative? Well, I can't do that. I'm not creative. And I'm just like, you just painted a scene for me. And we painted it in our minds. I mean, you painted it in your mind and shared it with me, but you have creativity. Mostly everybody. We have the ability. Not everybody's practicing it. We've gotten out of practice. So that's the tip tonight. Visionary. Rely on my vision to help you to be more creative. And Creative Heartbeats Club can help you execute that vision. So that's it for tonight. Remember, you have a creative heartbeat, so listen for it, and I will be back tomorrow. Bye.